Not too long ago, I made a video where I showed you how to set these up in the Xtool software, as well as how to cut them out with a P2 laser. Now that's a CO2 laser. A lot of people in our crafty community have diode lasers, and somebody with a WeCreat laser asked me, can you show us how to set that up in the WeCreat software? So that's what I'm going to do in today's video. Now with the P2 laser, since that is a CO2 laser, my top layer was actually cut out of acrylic. We're not going to be able to cut white acrylic out of a diode laser, but I have something else in mind and it's going to look just as cute. If you didn't see the video where I made these on my CO2 laser, let me show you this really quickly. So I have one layer of brown walnut, I have a black coated wood, I have 2 pieces of basswood, I just painted those, and I mixed up some paint from some craft paint from Walmart. I got it to the color I liked it, and I painted one piece of wood with one of them, and I painted another piece of wood with the other one. We'll talk about the wood in a minute. Then on the top, I used white acrylic. You cannot cut white acrylic on a diode laser, so I'll show you what we'll use in place of that today. It's still going to look beautiful. It's going to look basically like this looks. I also have some ribbon. I have some more wood beads. I have wood glue. A toothpick, because that's how I like to put the wood glue on the back. Now these are leather needles or leather sewing needles, and they have a huge eye in them, and so it's easy to put your ribbon through that large eye and then put it through the hole in your wood bead. So I'll show you that later. For the layers, I have my light green layer. Now I had a spare one of these left from when I used my CO2 laser, so I'll just use it. It would cut exactly like this does. This is a white coated piece of wood. It's white on the back also. I have a black coated piece of wood, and then I have the same walnut plywood that I used before. On the top layer with the white coated wood, I'm going to put some of this double-sided tape on the back. It just makes your top layer look really nice. And then of course I'll use my computer, and I'm going to use a Vista WeCreat today. I've already tested all my materials with the Vista to get my settings, and look at how clean my Vista cuts out. I didn't even have any masking on that. Here's another example. This little circle, there was no masking on that. That is one thing I love about my Vista, is it cuts so very cleanly. So let's jump on the computer. I'll pull the design into the WeCreat software. I'll show you how you can customize your ornaments. After that, we'll watch the materials cut out. Here's the design that I got off of Creative Fabrica. Now with this design, you get the circle, you get the lines in the circle, and then you get the 2 pieces of foliage. You have to create the initial and the word yourself. If you're interested in this, check out the video description below. I'll have it linked. Now that we're in the WeCreat software, let's go ahead and bring in the design. I'm going to click right here on Import, and that takes me to my desktop items. Here's the design, so I'll click on it, and then I'll say Open. Alright, let's go ahead and click off of it, and let's see if it's grouped. Okay, when I bring it into WeCreat, it's not grouped. When I took it into the Xtool software, it was. So let's click on a line here, and then we'll hold the Shift key down. We'll click on the next line, and then I'm just going to click on all these lines while I hold the Shift key down. Once I have them all selected, I'll let go of the Shift key, and I'll go right up here to group. Now, if I were making more than one of these designs, what I could do is I could go ahead and select everything. I could hold the command on my keyboard down. While it's held down, hit the C, that means copy, then let go of both keys. Then once again hit command. While it's held down, click on the V. That duplicates it. I'm only making one today, so I can delete this duplicate. When you make this design, this layer of foliage right here sits on top of this circle. So I'm going to move it up there, and then now that it's close, I'm just using the keys on my keyboard to move it into place. I need to have this in place so that I know how large I can make the rest of my design. Today we're going to make one for Todd. So now we're going to go over here to text, click on it. Then I can click back over here on the canvas. It defaults to the word hello. Now what I can do is double click on that, hit delete, and then I can type Todd. Now this isn't the font that I want, so let me go ahead and select Todd. I'll go right up here to font, click on it, and then let me look at recently used. I'm going to use this Lobster 2. Now I want all these letters to be touching, so let's go up here to kerning. Notice if I change that 0 to a 2, see how those space out? So I want to go ahead and replace that with a -2. They're closer together. Let's try -3. Now it looks like those two are touching, but that one's not. And if I click on it, I don't see anywhere up here where I can ungroup those to move it over. So this is kind of a pain, but it is a workaround. So let me go ahead and double click on Todd and delete the D. Now what I'm going to do is go back over to text, click on it, click back over here, double click on hello, and just type 1D. Let me go ahead and select that D, then we'll change it to the same font. Now as long as I do that before I change the sizing of this, it's going to come out the same size. So I'm going to move it down into place, and then with the arrows on my keyboard, move it over just a little bit so they're touching. Let's click on it and go 1 or 2 more spaces over. Alright, let's try this. So we're going to select everything in Todd. We'll go right up here to merge, and we're going to click on this merge graphic shapes. And I think that looks fine. Well, let's see if it fits. It might fit. We'll see here in a minute. Let's go ahead and type the T. This is the T that goes behind it. So I'm going to go back to text, click on it, click over here on my canvas, double click, delete, and type a capital T. Now let me go ahead and select it, and we'll change it to a different font as well. So I'll click back up here under font, go to recently used, or you could use your system fonts, but I know which one I want to use, and it's this one right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and make that a little bit larger. Now notice, let me show you this. I can drag this any which way. I don't want to do that. I want the proportions to be locked. So I'm going to hit undo, select it again, lock the proportions, and then I can make it larger. Alright, let's see how this fits in the space I have. It's a little too large, so I'm going to take a corner and drag it just a little bit smaller. Let's drag it up into place. Now what I can do is select everything here, the round, the foliage, and the T, go up to align and say center horizontally. And other than moving that down a little bit, I think that looks good. Now let's move Todd down into place. I think Todd is a little bit large, so let's make it smaller. If you look up here, notice it is unlocked also. So the default on mine is to be unlocked. So I'm going to lock the proportions, and then I'll drag it just a little bit smaller. And I'm going to move it down. Let me go just a little bit smaller. Okay, once again, let's just select everything, go to align, and center horizontally. All right, I am ready to cut this out. Let me go ahead and move this apart. I'm going to go ahead and put the walnut inside the vista, then we'll hit refresh and we'll see it on the screen. The camera on the Vista is right inside the lid, so to be able to use that camera feature, you need to start with the lid up. Now let's go ahead and click refresh. And we can see exactly where I can cut this out. Now, I don't like that you can barely see this. Let's click on it. Let's go up to color, and let's change it to, let's go with yellow. And then let's click on this, go back up to color and change it to yellow as well. Also, I'm not ready to cut this piece. So with it selected, I'm going to say ignore for processing. Now, as I'm thinking about this, Todd would just be suspended in the air on top of the T if I don't put another thing of Todd attached to the T to support it. Hopefully that made sense. And as I'm looking at this, let's move this to the left just a little bit. So I want to make a duplicate of Todd. To do that, remember we're going to hold the command button down, click the C, and let both buttons up. Now I'm going to hit command again and click the V. We'll place it over here, and I'm going to go ahead and weld or merge these two shapes together. So I'm going to click on Todd, hold the shift key down, add the T to it, let the shift key up, come right up here to merge, and click merge graphic shapes. Now you can see that layer is going to support the word Todd. Okay, so back to this. If I click on this, you can see it is ignored right now. I'll click on Todd, I'll click on ignore, we'll click on this one, we'll say ignore, and then for this layer, let's click on it, let's change it to cut, and then we're going to go right up here and change our material. I'm going to click on it, and I'll select this 5mm walnut plywood. Now I need to make sure I get the outside and the lines. Let's move those up. Let's be sure to click this and say ignore for processing. Now I'm ready to start. So I'll click on start. I'll say send. Now I'm going to go over, turn on my filter, close the lid on the vista, and push that button on the front. Now that we're done, I'm going to click on complete. And I'm done with this part of the file, so I'm just going to select it and delete. The next layer we're going to do is this layer right here. So let me click on it. I'm going to go ahead and keep it on this same setting, the 5mm plywood, but I want to move it to cut. I'll hit refresh. That way, once again, we can see the bed of that laser. All right, let's move these out of the way. Remember, this is set to ignore. This is set to ignore. I didn't get rid of the lines, I just deleted the circle. Let's delete those. And then somewhere on here, I have one other small piece of foliage. There it is right there. Let's change it to yellow as well. Okay. Notice it's also set for ignore. So we're going to move Todd over into place. So we'll say start. Now notice it says there's no content on the canvas. That's because it's still set for ignore. So let's uncheck that. Now we're ready to go. We're going to have to bump this back up to 100%. And we're ready to click on start. I see it looks good, so I'll say send. Now that we're done with this, we'll click complete again. And with it selected, I can go ahead and delete it. The next layer we're going to do is this one. Now remember, we don't have to do this one, so let's go ahead and delete that. We're going to hit refresh. And this time I'm going to change this from plywood to basswood. It's right here. I'm going to stick with a 6mm width. Mine's really between the two. Now notice the laser here. If I wanted to use the auto feature, let me put this up here so we can see it. If I wanted to use the auto measure so that the machine measured it, I could click right here. The machine's going to figure out the distance to my material, and then it puts the thickness here. Now that's closer to 6 than it is 3, so we're going to leave that setting at 6. Now let's rotate this. Move it a little bit closer to this so we don't waste material. Change it from line engrave to cut. And just like last time, we need to uncheck this ignore for processing. Now we're ready to click start. Now we'll click send. Once again, I'll turn on my filter, close the lid, and press that button. Now I'm excited. We are finally on our last cut. Let's go ahead and delete this. We will hit refresh. I'm going to go ahead and leave this at the 6mm basswood. We'll move this right up here. And I do have some of that 3M adhesive on the back of this. Here's the laser again. So if I want to see really how thick this is, I can click on auto measure. Now to use that auto measure feature, this laser does have to be shining on the actual material. Okay, so this is showing a thickness of 4.44. That's right between 3 and 6, right in the middle pretty much. So we're going to leave it again at the 6mm. Let's change our processing to cut, and let's unclick ignore for processing. For the last time, we're going to click on start and send. Here's all the parts and pieces that cut out, and I think the Vista did a wonderful job on these. Now the only thing that I see is there's a little bit of white or light color on the outside of that, but what I found is it wipes off. So it's just some of the dust, the wood dust. So we're just going to layer it from bottom to top, and I'm going to fast forward through most of this. If you want to see more in-depth information about this, check out the video where I made this one or one just like it, and you'll see more details. I'm using wood glue that I got at the Dollar Tree store, and I just put a little bit of it on the back of the wood. I'm going to start by putting this little piece on the larger piece. And I like to keep the glue kind of in the center. This glue is going to ooze out, so you don't want to use too much. Now while I'm letting that dry, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing off this 3M double-sided adhesive. And I did use a thicker font this time because those first ones that I did, they were really difficult to do. I'm going to place it right on top of the same part that's attached to my T. And I'll do the same thing with this piece. Now I'm going to put glue on the back of this and press it down. We'll put the glue on the back of this, and then I'm going to try to center it on my wood round. And I can see I didn't get this lined up really perfectly, but it's going to be fine. It just needs some support. And on this one, I actually use that little score line to try to get this straight. Now the last thing we have is the T, then we can finish this off. I'm going to let this dry a good 15 minutes or so, then I'll come back. We'll add the wood bead and the ribbon. Now that the glue's dried, here's what it looks like. And I actually waited over an hour just because I got busy with other things, but it looks really good. Now I have about a 14-inch piece of ribbon through the eye of the needle, so both ends through it. We're going to come up from the back side, pull that through. We'll put our bead on, pull it through that as well. Then I'm going to put my needle through this loop and then pull the loop down over the bead. Now I'm just going to pull it tight. I can move my bead down, and now I can just tie it up here. Now I do use probably a little more ribbon than you need, but I just find that it's easier to tie the final knot when you have enough. So we'll tie that off. And then I'm just going to cut each of these at a slant just to kind of make it look nice. So here's the final ornament. I hope you like how it turned out. And if you have a WeCreat laser, I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until my next video, bye-bye.